Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Marvel Studios suffered another setback on its Blade reboot when the second director decided to leave the project. Now, last night, many comic fans were shocked when they heard that the second director for the Marvel Studios Blade reboot, Yann Demange, has decided to exit the project and decided to move on. Now, this Blade reboot movie, which was announced back in 2019 as part of Phase 4, was supposed to be the entry of Supernatural into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Kevin Feige had announced that actor Mahershala Ali was supposed to take the role that Wesley Snipes made iconic in 1998 when he basically restarted the entire superhero movie genre with the iconic 1998 film Blade. Now, after this announcement that they were going to make a reboot of Blade with Mahershala Ali, it seems like this production has never been able to get off the ground and has been stuck in what many in the entertainment industry, like myself, call development hell. Now, this whole film of Blade reboot was supposed to be one that was supposed to be launched for 2022. Unfortunately, the film has had numerous issues with the script, and over the course of the last 7 years, they have hired close to 7 writers over the last 7 years to be able to write this screenplay, but they haven't been able to get a concept off the ground as related to getting a reboot of Blade 2 being shot and filmed and released on screen for everyone to see. No, what was supposed to be what many in Hollywood thought was going to be a sure thing as related to guaranteed box office has turned into a development disaster. And as this development disaster has gone on, what has happened is that most of Hollywood is looking at this Blade reboot as being a disaster on the level of the Catwoman project of the 1990s. Now, back in 1994, after Batman Returns came out in 1992, this is where Warner Brothers Studios wanted to do a spin-off Catwoman movie starring Michelle Pfeiffer to capitalize on her popularity in Batman Returns and her Oscar nomination for the movie The Fabulous Baker Boys, because Michelle Pfeiffer was at the height of her popularity, and they thought making a Catwoman movie would lead to blockbuster numbers. Unfortunately, that project wound up in development hell the same way that Blade currently is right now, because Michelle Pfeiffer could not get a quality script written for the Catwoman character that she portrayed in Batman Returns, and because they couldn't get a script together, Michelle Pfeiffer eventually walked away from the project that had already been greenlit, and as a result, this project just languished in development Hades for many years until they found an inexperienced director in Patoff who was thinking that this film was going to elevate his career, and Academy Award-winning actress Halle Berry, who thought playing Catwoman would elevate her career to the same level that Eartha Kitt was elevated to when she took over the role of Catwoman back in the 1960s when Julie Newmar stepped away from the role on television. That's what Halle Berry thought that Catwoman was going to get her career to take it to the next level after this Oscar win. Unfortunately, what happened was, because the screenplay was so terrible, this film turned into a box office disaster even before a single frame of film was shot, because the film was not focused on Selina Kyle from the comic books. No, it was focused on another type of Catwoman, Patience Phillips, and this Patience Phillips character was basically a poorly developed and poorly designed character, but Halle Berry basically signed on the role because she thought the film had a $15 million payday that would allow her to live very well. But the overall film basically was the one that basically torpedoed Halle Berry's career after she won the Oscar for Monsters Ball and turned out to be one of the biggest box office disasters of 2004, earning Halle Berry a Razzie as Worst Actress. And it looks like Mahershala Ali might be on the same road with this Blade reboot, because when you have two directors walking away from a project, that's really a bad sign, because a director is somebody who's an essential person on a film. Usually the people who have most of the power on the film are the executive producer and the director, and if the director is leaving a film, that's a red flag that that film is going to be terrible, because without a director to have a vision for the film and a direction to take the film in, it means that the whole project is a complete mess. And again, a mess because the foundation of that film is basically damaged due to the fact that they do not have a screenplay. Now, as someone who has been a screenwriter and knows about writing screenplays, I understand that the screenplay is the foundation to a quality film, and if a film does not have a quality script, then there's nothing for the director to work with. And in the case of Blade, there really isn't much that they've been given a director to work with as related to story, because we've gone from one social justice type Blade story where Blade is going to pass his mantle on to his daughter, to a story that's set in the 1920s, which makes no logical sense to me, because Blade was born in the 1960s. He wasn't even born in that era. And another script that's supposed to be set in modern times, and another script that's supposed to be one where Wesley Snipes is supposed to reprise the role. I mean, we don't really have a focus on how to incorporate or bring Blade into the Marvel Cinematic Universe organically, and some say it's because the Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't really have a good foundation in the supernatural, but I have to call BS on that once more, because Doctor Strange is supposed to be the foundation of the supernatural as related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you had the Werewolf by Night special start laying that foundation. And again, bringing Blade in should have been fairly easy, because when it comes to Blade, all you needed to see was a vampire basically either running down the streets of New York City and looking to escape the Blade as he's hunting, and then we see the iconic blade that Blade throws from his belt towards a wall and just embed into the wall near the face of the vampire, and that's how we know Blade is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Again, no different than Thor's hammer being shown in the end of Iron Man. Establishing Blade in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is fairly easy, and when it comes to a vampire story could easily have been put together as related to the events of Infinity War, when Thanos did the snap. What could have been done in that event could have been, you had Thanos do the snap, and he killed half the universe, but he didn't kill any of the undead, because the undead are already dead, and since they are already dead, the effects of the snap don't work on them. And what happens is that this is where Dracula could be introduced as the big villain, and Dracula is looking to establish eternal night on Earth, because there's no Doctor Strange to stop him, and Wong is not that experienced. So here's an opportunity to introduce Blade into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and show how he's been a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and ready to take on the threat that was established as related to the multiverse saga. Unfortunately, when it comes to Marvel Studios, they are not in a good place to be able to tell stories organically, because Kevin Feige basically has spread them too thin, and as he has spread Marvel Studios too thin as related to producing too many projects, they cannot really focus on developing a quality Blade film to take over as the reboot in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the supernatural. And it's really sad because, again, all the elements are there for a truly great introduction of Blade into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And when it comes to vampires and vampire lore are easy to write because, as I've done it with my Vampire Saga in the ISIS series and a Steam series where I had ISIS run into vampires in Night of the Vampires and introduce Lilith Graves, and the characters go on to take on Dracula and Bride of Dracula and have another encounter and escape from Transylvania, and then everything wraps up in a steam horror into the Hamptons. In the first Vampire Saga, I show how easy it is to write vampires, and in my novel Eternal Night, I basically lay the foundation for vampires and vampire lore, but it seems like seasoned screenwriters can't seem to write a Blade movie, even though the vampire lore is very easy to write once you know how vampire lore works. I mean, Joss Whedon made his career with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, again, one of the great vampire stories, and before that, there was the show Forever Night. So writing vampires isn't that hard. So again, I'm wondering what's going on in Hollywood as related to this Blade reboot. I mean, what's really going on here as related to this Blade reboot that they can't seem to really get a script together? I mean, this should be a knockout for the park, even for an amateur screenwriter. I mean, the elements are there from Infinity War to be able to tell a Blade story where Blade is going out and making it safe for the Avengers to be able to participate in the final battle of Endgame by holding off the threat of Dracula. I mean, that's the story I would tell with Blade, is that you have Blade holding off these supernatural forces that look to try to establish a power base on Earth as the Avengers are dealing with trying to get the Infinity Stones. You have Blade in the background basically staving off that threat. But the whole thing is that Marvel Studios is so damaged from Phase 5 and Phase 4, that they don't really have the talent to be able to craft a story to make Blade really stand out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or make the threat of vampires look like a credible and serious threat. And that's the whole sad part of this Blade reboot. I mean, we've lost 2 directors. We've lost Jan Dimage, and we've lost another director before him. And again, we keep losing this talent because Marvel Studios has no plan or direction for Blade. And again, they have no plan or direction because they really just don't know what they're doing at all. This is why you don't go out here and just announce a movie without a script. You don't announce a movie without a script because you need to have that script in place so that when it's time to launch the film, you have everything in place. You want to have the script ready before you hire the actors. That's the way a smart producer does things. They understand, yeah, I gotta have that screenplay in place. And yes, screenplays are fluid, and because film is a collaborative process, they change every day as related to pink pages, but you want that foundation and blueprint there as related to a script, because a script is how you're gonna have your vision and your plan for the director to work with, and how you're gonna have a plan for your budget, for the executive producer to know how much this film is going to cost. I mean, without the screenplay, you have no real guidelines for how to make a film, and that's the mistake that Marvel Studios made with this Blade reboot. They made the mistake of announcing the film before anything was set in stone as related to the script. I mean, you lost 2 directors, Bassam Tariq, who left that script because of the numerous delays that were going to cost him money, and now Jan Dimage is walking away from this script, and I can't blame those directors because the time is money, and every year that the script winds up in development hell is them not being able to get another job, and it's only a matter of time, as I see it, as Mahershala Ali decides to walk away from this movie the way Michelle Pfeiffer did, because at 50 years old, he's seeing job prospects leave him and credits leave him. He's seeing opportunities at work leave him. And again, this is why everyone is walking away from this Blade reboot, to leave it to crash and burn, because Kevin Feige wasn't on code when he went out here and announced this movie, because anybody who knows the entertainment industry knows that if you announce a movie without a script written, you've basically doomed that movie to fail on minute one, because when you greenlight a project and allocate money without having a script in place, you've basically set that film up for failure, because you need that script to be the foundation and the guideline for everybody to work with, to know what direction they're going in. The director needs this to be able to know what type of film he needs to shoot. The executive producer needs this to know how much money to allocate for financing. Actors need this to know what their characters are. Location managers need this to know what locations to set and get things arranged. I mean, if you don't have a script, you don't have a movie, and that's the problem with the Blade reboot that's leading it to it crashing and burning, is the fact that they don't have a script. And this is something that Kevin Feige should have thought about, but all he was thinking about was getting clout with Phase 4, not understanding that the business practices he was using were not standard, and it's those non-standard business practices that basically have taken the Blade movie and turned it from being one of the most anticipated films to possibly being one of the biggest disasters since 2004's Catwoman. Now, if you want to check out the vampire stories in the SJS Direct universe, you can pick up the books in the ISIS series, ISIS Night of the Vampires, ISIS Bride of Dracula, ISIS Escape from Transylvania, and Esteem Horror in the Hamptons, along with the novel that establishes vampires in the SJS Direct universe and the lore Eternal Night. You can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, and you can find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about comics, science fiction, and fantasy, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to check out my first two full comics, John Haynes at Death's Door, you can find John Haynes at Death's Door at Lulu.com in paperback right now. And you can find Esteem No Good Deed in Kindle format, and then the Esteem series book Blast from the Past. You can find all of those comics on Amazon.com and check out how I write fantasy in comics. And you can find, again, everything as related to the SJS Direct universe on Amazon and other online booksellers. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.